I've always been fascinated by what motivates our business leaders, and I want to know what we can learn from their stories.
Nick, welcome to Bloomberg.
Well, thank you.
From a space above a restaurant in London to an empire of over 30 members clubs, the last 17 years has seen Soho House expand across the world, from LA to Istanbul, to the beaches of Mykonos and the prime real estate of Chelsea, New York. It's become a haunt for creatives and celebrities, and even bankers, with the opening of the Ned in the City of London. In the middle of the pandemic, Nick made a bold move and took the company public.
So how do you start your morning?
I start my morning with a very early alarm call, but I'm finding the older I get, I just naturally wake.
Yeah, how early?
I like waking up at 5:30.
That's like a Bloomberg call.
And then I like going for a bit of exercise.
Yeah.
So
Every day?
Maybe 4 times a week. So if I'm in London, I take some boxing on Regent's Park.
One Americano, sir?
Thank you very much. Beautifully done. Breakfast is always very important.
What's your favorite?
Well, boiled eggs are pretty well my favourite, but usually I'm so fussy I only do them at home. I've never been part of a private members club apart from Soho House. And I think probably, when I went to New York, I was never able to get into any of the clubs. So
you said, I'm going to find my own.
So I thought maybe this is one way of sorting it out.
You have quite a journey. Do you ever stop to think, wow?
Sometimes.
What do you think about?
Well, I sort of think it started so small and there seems to be so much demand for more. What we created 27 years ago seems incredibly relevant in today's life, in the fact that people want to live this sort of more flexible, hybrid way of living, and physical connection is never going away. Food and drink and sleeping is never going away. People want to socialise, they want to connect, and Soho House and Soho Works is ideal for that.
Bring me back to that day in 1993.
The day in '93 was when I got the phone call from the landlord to say, would you want to take the space available upstairs? And I went, well, never shy of an opportunity. I had a look round and I thought, what could I do there? And because it had a small door, I thought, well, it can only be a private members club. So it was 3 houses with 3 floors in the middle of Soho. So it was a house in Soho, so we called it Soho House. And we went round the area and found 500 incredible founder members, which...
Still with you today?
They are still with us today. And it sort of grew from there. It was like starting with a very small snowball and then growing and growing and growing.
But at the time, did you have plans already, or did you just
No.
think, let me get this off the ground?
I've only ever been led by our members. So when it's looked like it was beginning to work, our members would say, well, Nick, it'd be so great if we could have a version of this in the countryside. So I went, okay, yes. So we created Babington House. And then they would say, well, wouldn't it be great if there was one in New York? And I got friends and people who come over to London from New York say, this would work so well in New York. So we ended up doing one in New York. And so really, I've always been led by our members. And wherever our members suggest, I usually follow.
Did you think when you were young that you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
No, I didn't. I was highly dyslexic at school. I struggled at school. And I just thought, how do I just get through this part of my life? And I was excited about that because even though I was happy at school, I felt that me and an exam paper and being told what to do by a teacher was not really what I wanted to do. I wanted to have more of a free spirit.
What do you define yourself as? I mean, is it entrepreneur, restaurateur?
Caterer. When I went into hospitality, I went straight into the kitchen. And when I went into the kitchen, I was surrounded by people who I would have never have met or come into contact unless I was working in a kitchen. And it was such a great eye-opener, and they were such decent, nice people that it was, you just learn how to get on with people. And I think at that stage, I was a very shy guy. So
really?
it was good to learn.
And so at the time, what was your first business? So did you think, actually, I need to do things, I need to be an entrepreneur, because that's the way I'll get it?
I set up Over the Top Restaurant, which was really bad. So
Why were they bad?
well, the food was bad, the decor was bad, the service was bad, and you know I owe it to my friends who came regularly to support me, and they had to eat quite a lot of horrible food.
Were you down in the dumps when you realized, or did you take it as
Well,
an opportunity?
I felt I was learning all the time. I was learning if I did this differently, would that work, and if I tweak that, and if I change that. So then I opened Cafe Bohème in '92, and then Soho House opened in '95.
So what's your biggest mistake that you learned from?
The biggest mistake was not to realise that any of it was a mistake, but to learn by it, and to just that it was just a journey and it was progression, and I think I still do that every day.
So you've had Soho House since 1993. A lot has happened since then. We've become more digitized. We had COVID. What was the hardest day in this journey?
I think it's been lots of hard days. I think there's been lots of days where we've run out of money, and in the early days, and you had to figure out your way through that. And you know, I care deeply about our members and our people who work for us. So you know, when anything happens to them, that's a hard day.
In those early days when you ran out of money, what do you do? Do you swear? Do you kind of stay positive, or how?
Well, I swear to myself, but you learn never to do that again. You learn again, how do I figure out how that doesn't happen?
Are you always positive, or are there days where you just think?
No, I think there are days when I'm challenging. You know, I'm challenging to the team, and if you're not, if you always look at everything, you know, that it's great, then you're not going to then challenge them to try and make it better. So there's a bit of both. You know, in the next 3 years, we're going to be at 85 houses globally. You know, it's all about teamwork. It's all about a culture. It's all about people aiming to make the life of a member better.
Do you worry about overexpansion? Like, as an entrepreneur, I guess you choose what city you want to open in.
Well, you know, ever since we went from 1 to 2, people went, ooh, you know, it's going to change. And actually, I think what we've found is the more global we've become, the more interesting a place we are to come and work. And I think we never take anything for granted. We always go into a new city nervous and thinking that we have to it has to work locally. If it doesn't work locally, it never works globally.
What's your biggest challenge every time you open a house? Is it location? Is it staff shortages? Is it?
Well, I mean, talking big picture, it's making sure you get to the right city, into the right location. And I think we have cities without houses, so we already have members in those cities who care about us. So they guide us to the right area of the city, and they guide us to the right building. So. And staffing, yes, we got a short-term problem with staffing at the moment, like everyone does. It doesn't matter if it's hospitality, it doesn't, whoever you are. And I think you just have to just get better at employing people. You have to come with the times. You gotta figure new ways of encouraging people into your business.
Does stuff get stolen at the houses?
Borrowed.
Borrowed and given back?
Sometimes. Permanently borrowed sometimes.
I don't know if you have a party trick, but how do you make a successful dinner party?
Well, I think the sense of generosity, and to make sure that it feels casual enough that it relaxes people. You know, so lots of drinks, lots of sense of good music, good company. And low expectation, I think. You know, don't build it up as if it's going to be something special. And I think people always enjoy themselves when it's a surprise.
So no paper invite?
No.
No paper invite?
No.
Word of mouth, text? Maybe text?
And maybe even over invite. So you're having to add chairs. So it looks, oh, I'm glad I'm here, rather than having empty spaces.
Nick Jones, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me on.